not sure if I can juggle them. Ah! I didn't mean to do that. Can we juggle them? Oh, I don't want to break anything. I wanted to see if I could juggle them. Let's check. Yeah. Okay, I'm done trying to juggle a grapefruit and an orange. I tried. I'm coordinated, but I'm not a juggler. Juggling's just not my forte. Now, I wanted to talk about. I went to sleep early last night because I don't know. I stayed up late the night before because I edited that video, which I thought was very interesting. And I just want to talk about how I approached that. I approached it from a literary and historic perspective because I talked a couple times about my ideas, like about faith on this channel, but that's really not what my channel's about, and that's not what I want my channel to be about. And honestly, that's just not how I really enjoy like discussions going, because I know there's a lot of people that's like their main focus of their channel, but that's just never been my main focus. But here is my thoughts. I'm gonna walk you through my thought process on how my channel is. Like, I know like a lot of people say nowadays you need to have like a niche channel, and I do with the hair channel. And you know, I kind of did with this one years ago when I was just doing like crafts and cooking. But you know what? I have never been a niche. I'm not a niche-y lady. I'm not a niche. Like, in fact, I'm beginning to see what I'm beginning to see that's a little bit different. Maybe I'm going to let people know that I'm live, because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let people know that I'm live so they can watch this if they want to. So I'm going to go ahead and post it somewhere. I think I'm probably going to share it on maybe the Facebook group. I'm going to change a couple things too. So, yes, we will be making our grapefruit and orange smoothie. They're here, but I want, okay, making a grapefruit and orange smoothie. So this is how I do my back end. Like, when you're doing YouTube by yourself, you have to just be like, you have to just like do all the editing, which I did yesterday for that one video. I think it turned out really good. As I make the smoothie, I'm going to talk about my thought process too, I think, and how I edited that video, because I ended up being really, really happy. And it brought back some good memories about things from different classes that I took in the past. I kind of want to deep dive into the whole concept of that video without it making it about like religion really. Like, I kind of just want to discuss something. Like, I have a lot of thoughts in my mind right now about just that topic. And I kind of want to talk about it from just a perspective of, I'm not an outsider per se, but, you know, because I'm nominally Christian. I've been to a mosque, I've been to a synagogue, okay? But I'm not, like, actively, I've been to a mosque 2 times, I've been to a synagogue 1 time. So I have a little bit, I'm definitely not a Muslim expert, a little bit more interaction with Muslims than Jews. And I'll talk about why, because a lot of people, like, when it comes to Judaism, like, I feel like it's kind of a cultural thing. Like, honestly, people don't become, this is just my thought on it, they don't become Jewish unless this is something that was, like, culturally part of their background. There are people that are, like, compelled to convert to Judaism, but far more people are compelled to convert to Christianity and Islam. And I have thoughts about this, about why people, well, I'll tell you why, just as an outsider, because I'm not a Muslim, but there's certain things about Islam that really attract people over Christianity. And I can tell you there's a few things, like, about it that make it more appealing. Like, I know everybody's like, oh, Jesus died for your sins, but there's something about that. Like, let's say you're shopping for religions, like you're shopping for a house. There's a reason that explanation doesn't really resonate with people the way that Islam, there's something about Islam, and like I said, I'm not becoming a Muslim, but there is something about Islam, its messaging, its sense of community, and I think just the cultural practice of like being neighborly that just translates better, that you don't really get with Christians. I mean, you do, but you don't. Like, there are Christians that are neighborly and whatnot, but you just don't get that. It's hard to explain, but I'll kind of, just as an outsider, as I'm making the smoothie, I'm going to kind of just talk about my thoughts on this. Because for me, I don't really want to join like a particular religious group, but I like to think about like, why do people, as I'm editing my thing, I like to think about like, why do people join groups? Like, what makes one group more compelling than another group? Like, why do people want to be part of this group and not that group? Like, what is the motivating factor? Like, what is it about a certain group? Okay, I'm just gonna save it and go. I think that's good enough. Alright, so, like when it comes, yesterday when we were doing that reading, I really was interested when Aya told me that like she teaches like some Hebrew lessons because she's a native speaker of Hebrew and a linguist. It just really, it really interests me because, yeah, I want to learn like Abrahamic languages, Semitic languages. I would like, in an ideal world, I've learned a little bit more Turkish and Arabic, but lately I'm more interested in learning words in Arabic, Turkish, like Hebrew. I want to learn like these languages. Like I should want to learn Spanish, and I know a little bit of Spanish, but I honestly, for some reason, even though I took Spanish in college, it seems like French, I just picked up the accent better for French, and I just, something about my enunciation of French is better. Like, it's really on point. Like, somebody had a last name one day, and I was able to say it, and they said, oh, I'm so impressed. I don't know. I just am able to pronounce French names better than I am Spanish ones. But here's the thing, like, I don't think my pronunciation of Arabic's very good. Or, like, Turkish is a little bit better, but something about when I try to say Arabic words, it just doesn't sound quite right. But I haven't taken an Arabic class, to be fair. Like, so the video that we posted yesterday, I know a lot of people, like, they're just very much into wanting to, like, be in a certain category, in a certain group. And I'm not speaking about everybody, but I'm just speaking about, like, how some people, they already have a preconceived notion about things. But to me, I love all Middle Eastern cultures, all people. I don't have anything against one group of people. I don't use, like, a nationalistic definition, like modern nationalism. Like, I feel like there's a lot of modern nationalistic movements that keep people divided, especially in the Middle East. I'm not defined by those. I love, like, how Nassim Taleb can be friends with Syrians, Lebanese people, Israeli people. He can be friends with everybody. So I kind of approach things from a more, slightly more secular perspective, not necessarily like the nationalistic perspective of but you know, just like, I would say classical liberalism, where you want to learn about the world, like a Renaissance Enlightenment kind of mindset, where I want to learn more things. I'm always curious about the world, and I love to read things, and I love to make connections between things. I used to love the British documentary Connections because it makes connections between different things, and it's interesting because I feel like people are just so they're so married to these nationalistic interpretations of, like, we're part of this group and we're part of that group. But this stuff was all created by the British and the French, by the way, to keep people fighting and divided. So, honestly, people that just want to be people, that want to find commonality and want to, like, do research on linguistics, history, they're not defined by these things. And that's why I love Aya, and that's why I think it's so interesting that she knows about language like that, Hebrew and other languages. Like, she just picks up language, and so does Kate Gladstone, who we've interviewed on this channel and on Aya's channel. They're very linguistically inclined. I have an interest in language, but I'm not a linguist. I'm more of like a historian, art person, human. I'm a generalist. I'm not That's why my channel is so general, by the way. I don't really have a niche channel for that reason, because I have an interest in a lot of things. Like, I don't like to just kind of stick to one category. Although I will say this, like, I love history, and that is a big expertise in my life. Although I didn't want to get a PhD in history and teach history. I didn't want to do that. But I just love to learn about history for my own sake, because let's be real, like, in the history field, if you want to, like, get a PhD in history, it's because you want to teach history. I have no interest in being a teacher. I just don't. Like, I tried the teaching thing years ago, and it's just not that lucrative. Like, and it's a lot of, to me, I just am not a teacher. So I love to learn about history, and I love to look into insights about history. So I had a lot of fun with that video yesterday, because it brought back, like, when I was going to college, I took some religious studies classes. Although I really loved my professor, Dr. Bauman Martin. She was so good. Like, she was just so open-minded. She had an interest in learning about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. She didn't have, like, this mindset that, oh my God, I can't learn about one, I can't be friends with the other. She just was inquisitive about the world. And I remember when I took my first religious studies class with her, I wasn't becoming a religious studies major. I just wanted to learn more about Abrahamic religions, because to me, this is part of my background. Like, I'm part Syrian Lebanese. So to me, like, it feels so familiar. Like, there's a way, like, I feel like when we talk about biblical texts, I'm like, this is in a way, like, this is me, this is my family's roots. Like, we're from that part of the world. We're, like, of Canaanite descent. Like, we are from the Fertile Crescent area, you know? That is something that just speaks to my heart. And it's not about, like, I'm looking at this from a religious perspective. I just want to learn about, like, the cultures and how they evolved over time, without, like, these nationalistic groups that want to fight about, like, no, one person can't be here, one person can't be here. I love, like, how Nassim Taleb, like, approaches it. Nassim Taleb is pretty, I mean, I don't agree with him on everything, but he's pretty cool, okay? Just look up Nassim Taleb. If he can be friends with everybody, maybe you guys should be too. And get rid of your nationalistic things that, like, hold you back, because I'll tell you something, it's divide and conquer politics. They don't want us all to be friends and all to have a dialogue, because that's how they stay keeping, like, certain corruption. Like, we don't talk about, like, major things that are really going on right now, like with the economy in Lebanon, like what's happening to it. We don't really talk about it because, hey, or just different issues. There's got to be a better solution, right? But hey, I'm not a politician. I'm not on this earth to be a politician. I just want to learn about history and culture. So for me, that video yesterday was just so fun to edit, because it reminded me of religious studies courses I took in college. Although, even though I really loved Dr. Bauman Martin, I think she might have spoke Greek. I don't think she spoke Hebrew, so she knew about the text. But the thing that I really liked about that discussion with Aya was that because she is a Hebrew speaker, I could always learn Hebrew myself. I'm not trying to say I would never do that. But sometimes it's just interesting to talk to somebody who knows those things and can impart that knowledge, and you just learn something. And maybe it's not something I want to do every day, but the fun thing that I had with that is I started mixing art history with that religious, like, discussion. It wasn't even about religion, because we weren't approaching that story from a religious standpoint. Like, I know a lot of people got mad at my professor because we read the Song of Solomon and we looked at it from a literary historic standpoint. And like she said, some people got so mad at her. She said, you know what? This is erotic love poetry. And there's a lot of that in the Bible. And sometimes you just look at a story from maybe the genealogical standpoint or the historic or literary standpoint. And that's how we approach the story, because honestly, if you break down the story of Judah and Tamar, it's kind of like a Pornhubby type of scenario, is it not? Like, it really is. Like, be honest. It's kind of porny. Like, when you think about it, the whole when you read that biblical text, this is in the Bible. Like, this is it's like Harlequin romance novel stuff. It really is. It's very explicit. And they can say that it's not, But just get out your Bible and read, if you, or whatever Bible, or look it up online, chapter 38 of Genesis, read it. And I've always known that these things were in the Bible, but so is the Song of Solomon. So sometimes you can just look at a religious text, and it doesn't always have to be about religion. Sometimes we can talk about a story from a literary perspective, but that would make, okay, I don't know exactly, like, I mean, maybe Jews and Muslims feel this way. Yeah, I'm sure they do. But my experiences with Christian people, okay, because I took two religious studies class in college. One was about like the Old and New Testament, and then one was about a comparative about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And Dr. Moen Martin, like, she's just really good. Like, she looks for the similarities between all three and says, like, this is where this came from and that, and there are similarities. And there's some people that consider themselves Jewish and Muslim. There's some people that consider themselves Christian and Muslim, and that's probably a hereditary, heresy to some people, heretical thought to some people. But there are some people that kind of flow between two, and they're able to do it because, like, they just, things resonate with them. But here's the thing, they're not just listening to like what one group of people told them, like was the interpretation or something. So people used to get so mad at this professor because she said, look, the Song of Solomon is erotic love poetry. And she was talking about like this, I remember there was something about a certain type of plant, and we talked about it, which kind of reminded me of what Aya said yesterday, like when we were discussing it. So that was my bone to pick. Like, I'm not trying to come down on hardcore Christians, but my bone to pick with them is I have experience with Christian groups. I did that video about how I thought the Jehovah's Witnesses were a little too extreme, because they would take one verse of the Bible. I remember when I was a kid, because they're like, you cannot celebrate Halloween and Christmas because it's a pagan holiday. And I'm like, what is the rationale for this? Because there's one verse in the Old Testament where the Pharaoh has an innate birthday party, and they said that is worldly, and that is the reason why nobody should celebrate birthdays. And they used that one verse out of the Old Testament to justify this whole doctrine in their like faith that nobody's supposed to have a birthday party or a Christmas, and like, and it just was kind of absurd. Like, there would be certain verses in the Bible that Christians would use, and they didn't even know like the Hebrew context between certain words, because obviously when you're looking at the Old Testament, let's be honest and let's be real, like if Perez means breech birth and we're just learning the sound to it, we don't really understand, like, we don't get the importance of why Tamar's twin son was called Perez, because he was the breech birth like one, and he came before the other one was. We don't get that symbolism, do we? Like, if we just read the story, like, unless I had pointed that out to me, unless I were to do some deep diving, I would have picked up on that. And I'm going to have to reread the Song of Solomon, because I remember there was something, but this was a long time ago when I took the class. But people were just so rude to her. Like, okay, so I remember there were a lot of evangelical Christians, and there were a lot of Catholics, and they literally would, I didn't know people would do this, but honestly, shame on them. Like, they would come to class and they would argue with her, and she was just she was very respectful, and they would email her like at all hours, and I think they just didn't have any boundaries, and they would tell her, how dare you like say that this is not the Bible. And I was thinking, okay, if you were going to a religious college, like there are religious colleges in Southern California, like if you were going to Cal Baptist, you could have attended a university where they're going to teach the Bible as truth, and you could have been a religious studies major where you want to become a minister. But if you're taking religious studies courses at a secular university, they're going to look at it from like a historical and literary perspective. And people got so mad at her, like they would argue with her, they'd email her, and it was so disrespectful. I think one day she finally came into class and she said, you guys have no boundaries with me. You just email me at any time and day, and very disrespectful. And she goes, I have a child and you guys just don't respect me. And I thought, yeah, that is kind of rude. Like, it's one thing to send the professor an email. if you have a question. And then one time I came to her class, her office hours to talk to her about something. She goes, "Are you going to argue with me?" And I said, "No." She goes, "Oh my God, thank you for being respectful to me." She goes, "Because people would come to my office." These were like evangelical Christians and some Catholics, just to fight with her, to say that she didn't believe in the Bible. And so one day I think she just felt like she didn't even have to tell the classes. She goes, "I do believe in a higher power. I don't interpret it the way." And okay, so the one bone of contention was that she said the Bible was written by men. But religious people that are very devout want to believe that it's written by God, okay? So, and I know people love to debate these things, but there is a secular perspective on how the Bible was written. And this is my thought process on this. If you believe in your heart of hearts that the Bible was written by God and God inspired man to write it, then somebody in a secular viewpoint saying that it was written by man shouldn't bother you. And if it does, attend a religious university. But this is one thing that I've noticed is it seems like people that are like really devout, some of them are very super vocal and they don't have a boundary. And then they're wanting to like put their faith on others. And that was where this all started, when I kind of decided to post that video on my thoughts on faith, because I did an air fryer video and somebody spammed my video and they started asking me like about this Ray Comfort guy, and I was like, I don't know, why are you talking to me about this? I'm just making a video about an air fryer, and yeah, maybe that's kind of spam. They're probably spamming for Ray Comfort. I don't know. It just seemed random, or maybe they're a Ray Comfort bot, or I don't know. There's a lot of people, they think that they're preaching the gospel by going online. And now I'm going to get into why I don't think Christianity is as appealing to Islam as Islam to people, like if you're shopping for religions, okay? Let's say, okay, this is just kind of an outsider perspective, somebody who's had a little bit of interaction with all three of the Abrahamic religions. I can't really speak about other religions, being somebody who has like probably a little bit of the obsessive interest in Middle Eastern, like Fertile Crescent culture, because I don't know, I'm part Syrian, Lebanese, I guess. I just am kind of obsessed with it and interested in it, just from wanting to understand my roots. Because, okay, this is where I come from. I've always felt a little out of place in a way, because I'm a hybrid, and I'm part European, and I'm part Syrian Lebanese. So when I was younger, I looked a little bit more Syrian like my dad, and my sisters looked more white like my mom, like very fair hair, very fair complexion. I went to a school where I was the only person that had dark hair, and they'd ask, like, there were kids that told me I was adopted, because when I went shopping with my mom and my sisters, they said I didn't look like them, even though I have my mom's facial features. It's just, that was how white bread our community was growing up in the mountains. And I just always felt like, this is so weird, because I know, like, even though technically I would say Syrian Lebanese are what you consider Caucasian white, they're not European, okay? So everybody could kind of tell, like, I'm not completely European admixture. And I always kind of felt it, because I always felt that I was a little bit different. But then even when you're in more diverse communities, the thing that's not super diverse about it is a lot of people like are Hispanic in our area, or they're white, or they're like maybe African American, but I don't know anybody really in my area that is white and Middle Eastern like me. I just don't know anybody that has that exact background that lives near me that I can interact with every day. So a lot of people talk about like their Hispanic culture. There's people that have their really white bread culture, and that was never me either, because even though my mom's basically white, she isn't like other white people. She's always been interested in other cultures and food and stuff. My mom's just she's always fascinating. Like today my mom told me she's reading more biographies because she's rediscovering, like, she's always loved to read, but now that she's retired, she's like, I want to read about this. My mom just has an inquisitive mind. She's very quiet. She'll never talk about herself, but she's just like a very inquisitive person. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got kind of excited for her, because it kind of made me think about how she's coming. I feel like when you get older, you come back to who you are. Does that make any sense? Because I feel like life gets in the way of who you are, because when you're young, I don't know, maybe I have this idealistic, nostalgic viewpoint of it. I feel like when you're 12 or 13, a lot of the things that you are interested in will come back later in life. Sometimes if you have kids, like, you have to defer those things. I think one of the benefits of not having children, not that I'm against people having children, is that you have more time to just focus on things that interest you and that are you. And that's one thing I like. Like, I like being able to spend time on things that I love to do, like, that are interesting to me. So I know, like, I'm kind of all over the place in this discussion, but I guess what I'm going to try to come back to is, why do certain religions appeal to people more than others? Now, I find Judaism very interesting and very fascinating, but this is the truth about Judaism, like observant Judaism. Like, most people might not even consider themselves Jewish. Like, if they're more secular, they just don't. And that makes some people mad. Like, some people might have had, like, relatives that were Jewish because they were observant or semi-observant, and then they're not Jewish and people get mad about it. And I've heard people say that they're mad about it, and I'm like, that's weird. I don't know why. But I think the thing about Judaism is, I feel like it's a cultural thing. It's a very cultural. I feel like there's other religions that you pretty much have to belong to that cultural tradition to want to, like, join it, okay? And this can be true about some forms of Islam, because my one friend was confused that we were going to go to a mosque because she was Cambodian, and she said in Cambodia the Muslims wouldn't, like, invite you to the mosque, although Middle Eastern version of Islam, it's very, very inviting, very, like, approachable. It just is. But I think this has something to do with Middle Eastern culture. This is just my mindset, because I know this because my dad, he is the embodiment of his Syrian grandma. There's just something very welcoming about it. And it might be a cultural thing. It might be a cultural thing, I think. This is my opinion. It's not just like Muslims. There's just something about Middle Eastern culture that's very inviting and very, like, welcoming and wanting to, like, invite people to do things. So when it comes to, I mean, even though Judaism is a Middle Eastern culture, but I feel like it's more like they're a chosen people, right? You know? Hi, how you doing? I'm talking about all three religions right now. I'm just saying, like, why I think some people join ones more than others, because I did a talk yesterday about the Bible from a secular literary perspective, and I think some people might think it was about, like, the Christian faith, but it really wasn't. We're just looking at a story from a literary perspective. So what I was saying is, like, with the first Abrahamic religion, this is my opinion as an outsider. I think people don't really join Judaism unless you have a cultural connection to it. That is a very cultural thing. Christianity is an interesting one, and I have a lot of experience on this one, and I feel like I can speak on this one very, very deeply. But I could tell you why more people are probably drawn to Islam over Christianity these days. Like, this is my perspective as an outsider. So when it comes to Christianity, Christians, and I know this is true because I've had a lot of experience with evangelical Christians, especially in the U.S. They're kind of pushy. And there's just this mentality with Christians, okay, like, oh, I'm saved and you're not saved. Like, I remember literally, okay, this happened, well, I was just talking about my religious studies class where the Christians were, they were kind of harassing the professor because she didn't say that the Bible was written by God, and, oh my gosh, I got orange in my mouth. They were emailing her at all hours of the day. That's kind of true about evangelical Christianity. Like, if you live, it's maybe not in Europe, but here in the U.S., this is a thing. Maybe not as much now, but you would have a lot of people go out on the streets, be handing out pamphlets. Sometimes you're given, like, something that looks like fake money. Like, this happened to us the other day. It looks like a $100 bill, but it's like a little thing on the back that says, oh, do you believe in Jesus? And Jesus is going to save you, and Jesus is the solution to all your problems. But as I've said before, I just haven't had the best experiences in Christian churches. Like, I'm not a group person, though. Like, I'm not into really joining groups. But I think if you were to join a group, I think Islam is more appealing to people right now just because of Muslims aren't out on the streets handing out pamphlets like that, and just I feel like there's more acceptance of everybody. Whereas even if you do become a Christian, there's a lot of experiences that I could tell you about people that went to churches where they felt excluded. Like there was my one friend, she said she was going to this Methodist church for a while, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting." I said, "Are you a Methodist?" And she said, "No." And I said, and I just asked her, I said, "So why are you going to that church?" She goes, "Oh, they seem nice. Like, I like the music," because she was a musician and she loved to hear people play music. So she started noticing one day, like, even though some Christians do, like, welcome people to their congregation, she, like, noticed that the people were getting mad at her for being there. They're like, "Why are you here? Why is she here?" And she was like, "Oh, like, they didn't want me to be there." And I said, "Well, some of the Christian churches are kind of like that, whereas just my experiences with, like, Muslims, like, the few times that I went to a mosque, Middle Eastern Muslim, like, more Middle Eastern based, because, like I said, my one friend who was Cambodian, she was very confused when we had the religious studies assignment to go to the mosque. She was very confused by that, because she said at that time, like, I don't know, like, what the more probably modern Cambodian Muslims might be different, but back when she was growing up in Cambodia in the 90s, I think late 80s, early 90s, she said that, like, the Muslim community in Cambodia, they didn't really invite people to come to their mosque, whereas, like, in Southern California, like, I knew people that were Muslim and they would invite you to come and they were welcoming. And yeah, like I said, I'm not joining any specific religion, but I just feel like the Muslims are more welcoming. And I can see why more people are converting to Islam over Christianity, because, yeah, I get it. But I don't want to make people think that I'm converting. I amended that one video I did because I just wanted to say, I see why people convert to Islam over Christianity. That's just my observation, but I'm looking at this from an outsider perspective, so people don't, like, confuse, like, what I'm saying. So yeah, I can see why. I think people, like, there's more to offer. Like, and don't get mad at me for this like, comparison, but if you were, like, shopping for religion, it just seems like it does, and you're so right. There's so many contradictions. There's also some really strange things we were talking about. Like, we looked at the Old Testament yesterday from a literary and historic perspective, but a lot of Christians don't even know, like, the meaning of, like, the names. Like, it's interesting. So I don't want to make my channel, like, all about religion. I'm looking at this from, I'm interested in learning more about Abrahamic culture, Abrahamic faiths, because I'm part Middle Eastern, and I have this fascination with Middle Eastern cultures, like being part Middle Eastern. And this is also my opinion. I feel like Islam is the embodiment of just, like, that Middle Eastern, like, hospitality, which also I would say other groups have. There's just something about Middle Eastern culture where people are welcoming. Like, my dad was like, he would almost insist that people stay for dinner because he was like his Syrian grandmother. Like, you need to stay for dinner. And I don't know, that's just not something that most Americans do. Most Americans are like, you better get out because we're having dinner soon. Or if a friend just drops by when people are eating dinner, or like, we're having dinner right now, can you come back another time? Like, it's not a standard. Like, Americans are kind of uptight about that. Like, oh no, how dare you infringe upon our time. Whereas I feel like in Middle Eastern culture, people are very welcoming. And I know that for a fact because, well, Syrian Lebanese culture is like that anyway. And I think that speaks for all the Middle East. So there's just something about Islam that's more welcoming than the Christian faith. It just is true. And that's why, and also, like, there's certain teachings in Islam that resonate more with people. But I'm not converting to any. But yeah, there are a lot of contradictions in the New Testament. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I do 100% agree with you. I just think it's weird when Christians also think that they know exactly what some of these texts mean when they don't even know what the original languages they were written in are saying. Like, I don't understand that. And I'm saying that from my perspective because I don't want people to think, like, oh, I just made this up off the top of my head. No. Like, I had experience going to the Jehovah's Witness church where they said you can't celebrate birthdays because the Pharaoh had a birthday in the Old Testament and that's a pagan holiday. And I'm like, it doesn't say that in the Old Testament. It never said that. They made that up. It was just an interpretation that they made up. It's kind of like the whole indulgences thing. And they were... Yes, yeah, you guys believe in all those, but you believe that it was corrupted. Okay, that's interesting. So, in your view, it sounds like Islam has it more correct than, like, and I think that's so interesting. Like, because you know what, there are a lot of contradictions, especially I would say in the New Testament. It is kind of jarring. You're like, oh, one text says this and the other one says that, and one says text. It seems a little implausible. You're like, yeah. Anyway, I'm not saying that I'm going to convert to a specific religion because I don't know if that's my intent. I don't think that's my intent. So I'm just saying, like, when I make a video, like, this all started because I had some Christian people come to my videos about the air fryer and tell me I needed to talk about Ray Comfort, who's a confrontational weirdo. He goes out on the street and he's like, he finds people that he doesn't agree with. Okay, and I don't see Muslims doing this. He finds people that he doesn't agree with. I don't see Muslims make videos like this. He literally finds people he doesn't agree with who are very respectful to him, and, like, he confronts them on their lifestyle. But I don't see a Muslim do that. If a Muslim doesn't agree with a certain thing, they're not going to go, like, confront somebody that lives that lifestyle and, like, make them make a confrontational video. And this happened to me as a college student, too. Like, even in a less confrontational way. Like, there were people with audio-visual equipment one time outside the dorms. They're like, would you mind, like, saying some sentences for this film we're making? I said, oh, you're making a film? What's it about? They're like, can you tell us, what is your opinion about Christians? And I was like, oh, I just said it seems like they like practicing their religion. They're like, thank you. Can we record you? And why? Like, why would you be making a film like that? But that has been my experience with a lot of evangelical Christians. I would say Catholics kind of, they keep more to themselves, because if you want to be a Catholic, you want to join that particular denomination of Christianity, and there's certain rules, and I don't want to be a Catholic. But evangelical Christians, like, they are almost always trying to recruit people. Like, I've had so many experiences where somebody invites you to a church, and you go to said church, and then they're like, hey, you could start helping us with this and that and the other thing. Like, basically, they get people to do a lot of free work for them for whatever their missionary stuff is, and it's very interesting. I'm like, so I told this one lady, I said, you know what, I have school assignments, I don't have time. And then she was trying to guilt trip me. A lot of evangelical Christians do not have boundaries. And she'd be like, but you know, if you love God, you would help us at 2 o'clock in the morning stuff envelopes for this mission. And I'm like, no. Because at 2 o'clock in the morning, like, I might be up right now because I couldn't sleep. But most people I know who are college students at 2 o'clock in the morning might have to sleep or work on a class assignment. They're not going to get up and go stuff envelopes. So that was my experiences with, like, evangelical Christianity. And I can say that's why it turns a lot of people off, and I think a lot of people aren't very interested, but they're almost tone deaf. Like, this is not to bag on Christians, but they're almost tone deaf. So anyway, those are just all my thoughts on religion. But I had a lot of fun looking at art from a religious studies perspective, because I love to look at art. Okay, that was the part yesterday that I had more fun with, was just looking at the literary or historic art. I love art history, but I love history as well. It was so much fun. Okay, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing. I mean, I'll have to look more into these things. I'm always going to be honest, because I am a truth seeker. So I don't want anybody to think like I'm saying that I'm converting to a certain religion. Like, I don't want to create, like, any confusion. I just have a lot of interest in the Middle East because I'm part Syrian Lebanese. And I have a lot of interest in Abrahamic, like, religions, like, just study it maybe just from a historic perspective. But I also want to start studying about the Phoenicians. Oh my gosh, like, I'm going to try and find a good book on the Phoenicians, because there isn't much research. And this is sad. We don't have a lot of good books about it. I mean, yes, they're in the distant past, but there's a reason why they were written out of history, you know? Because people have been trying to say that they didn't really make voyages around the world, but they definitely did. And yeah, if you look it up and you do some research on it, I feel like it's because they want to supplant. Like, I feel like the Egyptians and the Greeks were intimidated by them, so that's why it's been suppressed. That's my opinion on it. And the Romans definitely did not like them, and to some degree, you know. But anyway, so I'm very interested in always learning more about like Abrahamic faiths, cultures. I want to learn more of the Abrahamic languages, Semitic languages, but I'm not a linguist, so I just learn little words here and there. Like, I'm trying to learn a few more words too. Like, I just have a lot of like general interest in things, but I also like to make a grapefruit and orange smoothie because I had a lot of oranges and a lot of grapefruits. These are all off trees, by the way. I could have ate them when they were a little bit fresher. They kind of lose some of their juice over time, but they're still good. Like, they're big and plumpy, and then they kind of go down in the fridge. Oh no, I don't think that you're trying to convert me. I don't think that at all. What I'm trying to say is, I don't even feel that. I don't feel like Muslims have ever tried to convert people. I'm speaking about my like experiences with Christians. They definitely try to convert people. That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys are very welcoming. Like, I like that Muslims are welcoming and encourage you to do research. Christians don't do that, especially evangelical Christians. They just tell you that you're going to hell unless you join them right now and stuff envelopes with them at 3 a.m. And I was literally told that once. So, yes, like, you guys that's why your religion is growing. And I can acknowledge that, like, because that is appealing. Like, that is appealing. I just don't want anybody to like be confused, like thinking that I say I'm doing something, because I just want to be honest about like my intentions. So these oranges are very good still, even though they kind of deflate in the fridge. I always recommend though, if you put fruit in the fridge, it does last a very long time. If you like to make smoothies. I like smoothies. Like, this is a nice one, big one. You don't drink it all at once, though. It's going to last a couple days. And the reason I like a smoothie is because I will eat an orange here and there. These are the best oranges, though. What's up with people stealing oranges off people's trees? This is so random, though. This is so wrong. And I don't know why people are doing this. But here's the thing. I guess now they made it legal in California that you can sell anything on a sidewalk. If you're on a sidewalk, you can. But our city said, if you want to have a garage sale, you have to get a permit to put up a sign to have a garage sale. Oh, yes, buddy. If you want to be a small business, you have to get a business license to operate your business in the city. But guess what? Do you want to just sell something on a sidewalk that's not near residential areas? You're free as a bird. You can sell anything you want on the sidewalk. So I guess people were stealing oranges to sell on the sidewalk? I can't make this stuff up. I cannot make this stuff up. I'm just like, it's wrong. Don't steal oranges. Like, somebody gave me oranges. But, you know, if you ask somebody for oranges, I'm sure they would have given you oranges, but these people want to sell them. So this lady found out somebody stole oranges off her tree because they have the ring thing. It records people. They're out walking up and down the streets just stealing oranges off people's trees. I don't know. I just feel like that's wrong. I don't think you should take people's oranges. Like, you could ask. They'll literally send a lot of people with orange trees in this area, because they have so many around this time of year, will literally sell you a bag for like $5, which is a really good deal, like a big bag of oranges or something. I do not like people stealing oranges. It just seems bad. I also am sad that they're cutting down all our orange fields, because they just want us to be LA. They're just so primed for that. They're like, you guys need to become LA. I think the train's great. But I don't agree with cutting down all the orange fields. I'm like, they're beautiful. It used to smell like an orange blossom around this time of year. But it's a little bit less so because they've cut down a lot of the orange fields. Some parts of progress aren't good. That part's sad. If I wanted to live in a metropolis, I would have moved to a metropolis. But and I think that I get it, but a lot of people are moving here and they're like, oh wow, like it's so nice here. It is, but it's because we're like more of a rural city, like a suburban city, more spread out. Yeah, I'm not craving the whole metropolis thing. I like more open spaces and being near the mountains and the desert and just seeing trees, and you be able to see like the mountains. Like you don't want a whole bunch of high-rise buildings. Like we have never had buildings above. There were ordinances here where you couldn't build like really tall buildings. I mean, I think now they're kind of getting around that. And I'm not saying I agree with all ordinances, but I just like more of a rural city. That's what I like. I think I'm making my smoothie a little too big. The sidewalk selling thing is interesting. Like most people that do it are legitimate, but there was one thing, I guess, that they did that I thought was kind of funny. Somebody was like, well, why can't I have a garage sale on my own property? Why do I need to get a sign, like approval to put up a sign for a garage sale? Because back in the day, like there are all of these things that I didn't know. Because I mean, honestly, I rent, I don't own a house, but I didn't know, like you have to get permission to have a garage sale sign. That's silly. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I had no clue. Like you had to have a sign to have a garage sale. I'm like, really? So this lady was hilarious. She said, you know what I'm gonna do? She goes, since like the street vendors can just like sell anything they want, she said she was gonna pack up her garage sale in a wheelbarrow. I know she's joking. And she said she was going to wheel it down to one of the fields and she was going to put up a sign that said garage sale or curb sale or something. And she was going to be a roaming vendor, because the roaming vendors, they don't have to have a city permit to sell their wares. But like a small business has to have a business license and you have to get an ordinance to have a garage sale. Her solution. She's like, but if they don't need to have it, she's gonna get her wheelbarrow and put all her stuff in it and wheel it. That's pretty hilarious. Like she's funny. I personally don't want enough salad. I try to give stuff away. I don't want enough stuff that I even have to have a garage sale. If I have stuff that I don't need, I give it to people that I know need it, but I just don't donate it to Goodwill anymore. Because that's another thing that's been going on right now, is that Goodwill throws a lot of stuff away, or they put the prices way too high. Like, I don't know if anybody knows about, like, okay, if you know there's a mom and pop thrift store, they definitely will sell things for like good prices. I think maybe some of the church affiliated ones, but Goodwill and Salvation Army, they're a tax scam, you see, because people donate all this stuff to them for free, and they're literally selling like an empty box. Like somebody went into Goodwill and there was a box, I think that fruit, like grapes came in, and they were selling that for $3. Like they literally priced a box. Like I can't even believe it. Like such a joke. So. And they make a pure profit off all of that. And then they don't even pay their employees. Like some of them are people with special needs, and they pay them maybe like 12 cents an hour. Yeah, they go to Goodwill, but it's getting weird. Like the prices are crazy. It didn't used to be that way though. Like 20 years ago, my dad, he used to like to, I'm not into thrifting. I'm just like, it's not my thing. And we ended up having to get rid of a lot of stuff, like, because he loves, I don't know, he just likes to, he thinks he's finding a good deal back in those days. But the prices used to be really good, because back in the days, like I would say maybe 10, 15 years ago, Nobody wanted to go to thrift stores. It wasn't trendy. People just wanted to buy new stuff, and you could find like, I don't know, like a prom dress or a wedding dress for like, I don't know, $2. But now you couldn't find like a musty old, I'm not kidding, wedding dress that probably has cat pee on it that they will sell for like the full price of what you could buy for a new wedding dress. Like it's, or like the empty box. And the resellers are crazy. Like they go to the Goodwill bins and they're all fighting over the stuff. And the thing I don't get about the resellers either is like we literally have like not even the Goodwill, but we have like Burlington and Ross, like a lot of the wholesale type department stores where you can buy the same things, but people like they buy that stuff online that the resellers sell it for. Like I have a purse and it's not really $95. That's just the suggestive value that they put on the price tag there so people will buy it. It's not really that price, but the resellers sell it for that price. Cinnamon, I love cinnamon. I just don't know if I have any. That's something I've been wanting to buy for a while. I'm looking. I have ginger. I don't think I have cinnamon. I have a big thing of ginger though. Let's put some ginger. That could be fun. I need to buy some cinnamon. I love cinnamon too. I think I just ran out because like around the holidays here in the US, like people make a lot of cinnamon stuff, and I had a lot of it, but I think it went goodbye. So I'll put some ginger in. I could try that. It's not the same, but you know, that's what I have right now. I have that. I'll buy some cinnamon. That's a great suggestion, though. I will definitely try it next time. It sounds really good. I just don't have any cinnamon at the moment because I literally know that I used it up, I think, making stuff around the holiday. Pretty sure I did. Yeah, I haven't bought cinnamon, but I do like it. Cinnamon's expensive here too. Like I used to be cheap, but I think it's, oh, don't do that. Fine, just do that. I put too much in. Okay, so I don't have a tamper, but I make my own DIY tamper. Let's see. I don't know what it said. You don't like ginger? I like ginger though, because ginger has some health benefits to it. But maybe I like ginger because you don't have to eat it though. I think I like ginger because a lot of Asian cuisine has ginger in it, and I don't know. I'm used to a lot of Asian dishes, so I do put ginger. And also fresh ginger root is really, I don't know. Like I would take fresh ginger root, lemon, and water because my friend was Vietnamese, and that was something like they just make like a fresh ginger root tea. Like this is gonna last me a few days to be sure. It will last and last and last. I just want to stir it up just a tiny bit, just to know that it's getting kind of... Ooh, it looks like an orange Julius, okay? That used to be really popular here in the U.S. Actually, orange Julius was, they said, were like the first smoothie shops in the U.S. And they were really good, but the thing about the orange Julius was it was like orange juice, and I think they added sugar to it, which you don't need to do, because the fruit is to add sugar. Although, I do have my protein powder. I'm thinking I'm going to put some of that in. Just to add some protein to it. It makes it a little bit more nutrient dense. And here I have my big giant knockoff Starbucks cup. This is not a Starbucks cup. I got this at Walmart for $4. And that's another thing about the resellers. They're selling like Starbucks cups $50. Like it's the same thing. It looks exactly the same. Look at this cup. It has that same studded design on it. And I got it at Walmart for $4. I did not need to spend $50 on a cup just because it says Starbucks on it. But people literally will do that. No, it's joking. I have like rosemary from my mom's garden, which is really cool. I have some peaches that she canned for me. I need to use those one day. I have a lot of cool like things because my mom likes to garden. What else do I have down here? I have like mint or basil from her garden. Basil. I have this. I'm gonna get rid of this. It's like, I don't know why I bought this. It's a cornbread mix. I need to get rid of that. I found out it had beef in it. I don't like it. So I need to get rid of him sometime. I don't know. Find somebody who wants it. Maybe I should just, I think I know who I could give it to. I just need to be like, knock knock, do you want this? That's how I get rid of stuff. I'm just like, here, you can have it. And be like, yeah. I mean, people have given me stuff that they didn't want before. Like, somebody had some lentils, and they know I like lentils, and like, oh, I bought lentils, and I decided I didn't like them. Do you want them? I'm like, okay. I felt like this was lasting a long time, but I've had it for a while now. I've had this big thing since September. It says there's 24 servings in it. 2 scoops per. I use a lot less than its recommendation. Like it says 2 scoops. Okay. I think they say per 12 ounces, but that's crazy. And their suggestions on here were just like water or like fruit juice. And honestly, I like this stuff. It's kind of cool, but it's a little chalky if you just had it with just water or a tiny bit of fruit juice. So I will put it in a big smoothie like that, but not just like a 12 ounce. That's also a little too crazy for me. But you do you guys. Like if you like a really, maybe the theory is people are using like a Vitamix. I'm never going to spend $500 on a Vitamix. This blender was $40 and it's lasting 3 years. One thing about this blender is, yeah, you have to keep blending. I don't care. It's very chunky, but that's okay. I don't mind it chunky. Some people don't like that, but I like it. It's very grapefruity too. It's super creamy. I need to get another container for the rest of it. Oh yes, I have this. I think this was a Spectrum cup. Because my mom used to work for Spectrum. And I love the advertising stuff because it's the best umbrella I've ever had. Who knew an umbrella from the cable company could be so good? Well, I like it. So this will be, like, that will last a couple days. So I just stick it in the fridge because I don't need to drink it all at once. So, like, let's say you just want to drink on a smoothie. Like, you have it here and you can just drink on it at your leisure. It's very creamy. Oh, it's very citrusy though. Like, I can really taste the grapefruit. Some people really don't like grapefruit. I love grapefruit. You're like, but it's so bitter. I kind of like that because I kind of like, what else? I love coffee sometimes, like when it's a little bit sweet but more bitter than sweet. I kind of like things that have a slightly bitter aftertaste. I love grapefruit. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.